What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Gooner channel, a channel 100% dedicated to the Arsenal, who, as we all know, are by far the greatest team the world has ever seen. And in news coming out in the last few hours is that Ruben Neves has decided to stay in Saudi Arabia. Now, he was one of the more shocking transfers to Saudi clubs over the transfer window this summer because he's only 26, and it caught a lot of people surprised. We're used to players like Neymar and Milinkovic-Savic, who both play in the same team as him, joining Saudi in the sort of end of their career. But he has so much still to play for. He's a regular in the Portuguese national side, and it was a surprise. Equally, it was a surprise that there was so much speculation just 4 months later linking him with a possible January transfer move to Newcastle. But with the Premier League clubs set to vote today on whether it should be legal to loan players between clubs who ostensibly have the same ownership group, chances are they are going to vote temporarily to suspend those kind of loans inward, which would mean that he wouldn't be able to join Newcastle. And it was widely reported that Arsenal had jumped in to hijack this. And that's principally because Mikel Arteta, according to Fabrizio Romano, who is the gospel on these things, is a huge fan of his from his Wolves days. There are loads of questions around this for me, not just, why would Neves be looking to leave? I think it made sense if there was some sort of agreement between Al Hilal and Newcastle because of kind of shared ownership. But why would he be looking to go on loan to Arsenal? And is he the sort of player that we really need? Now, when you're looking at Arsenal this season, there are loads of positives, but it does feel a bit muted. I think the expectations have been higher for Arsenal fans, and we certainly don't seem to have clicked as an attacking force in the way we did last season. Now, personally, I'm kind of grateful that we're a bit more boring and we grind out results, that we beat Burnley without too much stress, not like Bournemouth the year before. But for all our defensive improvement, I think you can agree we're defensively stronger. We're not clicking, and one of the reasons we're not clicking is at left 8 midfield position. We are, it seems, missing Granit Xhaka. Now, I think it's worth saying we're missing Granit Xhaka at the end of his 7-year spell, not most of the time he played for us. And Jorginho has been a fantastic deputy. I think he's played really well and he's captained, and he brings a sort of calmness and a change in rhythm that I think is really important, part of the reason we're defensively stronger than we have been. But the creativity just isn't there. And when you look at it with Emile Smith-Rowe, hopefully back from injury soon, but out and not really having had a chance to cement that position. Fabio Vieira now looking like he's completely out of favour, and there's a lot of talk of him moving on in January, either as a loan or a permanent deal. And I'm personally really happy about that because I'm fed up with Fabio Vieira anyway. But Kai Havertz, and I don't want to get into the debate, none of us do we? Is Kai Havertz good enough? Whatever the situation around Kai Havertz, and whether he's been brought into play as a Raumdeuter or as a left 8 or up front as a false 9, or if you're Julian Nagelsmann as a left back, that's right, those of you who didn't know, he played as left back for Germany. Interestingly enough, as left back, he was on the score sheet in the first 4 minutes, then gave away a penalty later in the game. Germany lost the game to Turkey 3-2. Sort of a tough start for Julian Nagelsmann after a couple of good wins. German national side's a bit of a mess, but Kai Havertz played as left back, so maybe that's something we need to consider going forward, although really hope not. Having said that, he was actually one of their, I'd say, probably their best defender on the day. So with Kai Havertz not quite doing it, Fabio Vieira possibly off, Emile Smith-Rowe's injury status a concern, Thomas Partey, if Thomas Partey is fit again in January, it's only in time for him to go to the AFCON. Declan Rice is therefore playing either at 6 with either at 8 with Jorginho at 6 or at 6 with somebody else to play in that left. Now, personally, I'd quite like to see Zinchenko given more of a chance here. I think his greater part of his performances have been in that creative midfield role. Is the midfield really the issue, though? For me, there is another question here, which is when we went into the end of the transfer window, I noted with some concern that we had only 7 registered defenders. One of those is Jurrien Timber, and the news around Timber is not necessarily that good. A Dutch sports paper has been keeping a very close eye on him for possible inclusion into Ronald Koeman's Euro squad, and they feel it's unlikely that he's going to be back fully playing until pre-season, so he may not be eligible for inclusion into the Euro squad. And that's a bit of a blow because I think there were a few of us that hoped maybe he could be back February, March, or even April, and that now looks unlikely. We also, of course, have Cedric at the back, and it doesn't seem to me like he's going to get game time anytime soon. So when you look at it, we really have our back four, if you put the back four in as Zinchenko, Ben White, Gabriel and Saliba. Then you have Kivior and Tomiyasu. Now, Tomiyasu's been playing brilliantly this season, man of the month in October, and Kivior looks decent, if not in the same kind of league. But after that, what happens if we do get a very serious injury? Now, this is one of the reasons why perhaps Ruben Neves was being considered, because he has in the past, for Portugal at least, played as centre-back. He is obviously defensively capable. And we know Declan Rice started his career as a centre-back. Maybe there are some other options there. But I'm more worried that we need to bring in a defensive player in the January transfer window. And then, of course, there's the issue of, is Eddie Nketiah good enough, even as a secondary striker, to see us win the Premier League? And I've got to be honest with you, huge doubts around that one. So should we be looking to bring in an attacking player? Certainly, I would love to see us splash the cash on Evan Ferguson and not Ivan Toney. Ivan Toney's reported transfer fee is near 100 million, somewhere between 60 million and 100 million. And frankly, I think that's hugely overpriced. And that seems to have cooled a great deal as well. Ruben Neves, for me, would make sense in a certain respect, but do we instead need to be looking at a more creatively minded midfielder? Do we have players like Mo Elneny, players like Jorginho, Declan Rice? Do we have that side covered? You know, Thomas Partey. And also, here's the other big question I have for you, is who goes the other way? Because there is speculation linking Thomas Partey with a move. Juventus have been rumoured. Italian clubs seem to do this, though, don't they? They can make big splashes and investigate whether a player is available. Do a lot of window shopping without ever actually putting their hand in the pocket. Also, who's really going to spend a lot of money on Thomas Partey in January if he's going to AFCON for most of that month? That only really makes sense to buy him in the summer transfer window, when I do think we'll see Thomas Partey leave the club. And frankly, I saw a poll recently asking fans to judge his time at the club out of 10, and the largest block of votes went for between 4 and 6 out of 10, and I think that's about right. He's undoubtedly a great player. On his day, he's outstanding, but his day doesn't come often enough, and we need more consistency. Other players that we're linked with, and I am going to do a video about the transfer rumours, because the international break is always one where you get a flurry of activity from people speculating on who is coming in and who's going out. Zubimendi is high on that list again, and I can't for the life of me understand it. He has repeatedly said he's not particularly interested in moving, and I think it's unusual for a club of our size and stature to be going after a player who doesn't show huge enthusiasm for joining. And the other one is Douglas Luiz. Now, I think Douglas Luiz is a great option, a great player, Premiership tested, but here's the problem. He's an Aston Villa player, and it's going to take huge amounts of money to get him across the line. Money that we are reticent to spend given financial fair play or sustainability models. Now, do I think that we are going to splash a huge amount of cash in January? No. Do I think we're going to make more than 1 or 2 signings? Not really. I'm not even convinced we're bringing anyone in. But if we do, I would hope that it would be somebody who could at least help us defensively. I want to know what you think, though. Am I mad? Should we just pull out all the stops and spend money we probably don't have and bring in a Victor Osimhen, who's still not all that happy at Napoli? As I said earlier, Evan Ferguson for me all day long. But I want to hear from you. The news today, though, is that Ruben Neves is not coming to Arsenal, as many had speculated. And by many, I mean almost everybody. And I'm not that disappointed about it. But let me know if you are. And finally, thank you so much for supporting this channel. We are on 656 subscribers. I'm kind of keen to get to 1,000. And if you can help me by subscribing, I would much appreciate it. Leave a comment. I answer all the comments. And until I see you again, be lucky. Lots of love.